lost my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Join me on Patreon to watch up to 5 episodes of this series and others in advance that are live right now. With that said, enjoy. The roar of Gine's fury shook the small home. When Raditz admitted that Kakarot had left on a mission, her anger snapped like a whip. She was terrifying when enraged, sometimes more than Prince Vegeta himself. Gumil, working quietly in the background, tried to ignore the storm, but the memory of Kakarot's brush with death haunted her. She wasn't his mother, but even she felt her chest tighten at the thought of the boy venturing off-world to fight. Still, it wasn't her place to speak. She bit her tongue and kept to her work. I wasn't going to stop him from doing something he wanted, Raditz shot back, defensive. Gine's tail lashed behind her as she clenched her fists, her voice dropping to a dangerous growl. Raditz, give me your scouter. But now. Her tone left no room for argument. Raditz practically tore the device off his head, tossing it so fast it looked like it flew from his face. Gine snatched it midair, slipped it over her ear, and pressed the side button to power it on. Her fingers danced quickly across it, opening the general channel. Kakarot, Kakarot, she called, her voice tight with worry. Searching for a Saiyan named Kakarot. If you're there, respond. At the mention of Saiyan, hundreds of warriors across the network instantly shut their channels, uninterested. The signal grew quiet. Silence pressed into the house. Gine's eyes burned with focus as her tail swayed violently. Raditz edged farther back, wary of getting smacked in the face if her temper flared any worse. He thought bitterly, if I'd known she'd blow up like this, I would have just squeezed the brat's tail and kept him home. It had been so long since he'd seen his mother's temper. He forgot how terrifying it really was. Sheesh. PIP. The scouter chimed with a signal. Gine slapped the button to connect. Hello, Kakarot. No, came the deep, familiar voice. It's Bardock. What are you calling Kakarot for? Relief washed over her, though the worry didn't fade. It's Kakarot, she explained quickly. Raditz says he's gone off on some mission. Without my permission, without anyone's. I'm trying to reach him now. Bardock, ever the soldier, kept his voice calm. He knew her well enough to expect this. Stay cool, Gine. Whatever the kid's up to, he'll be fine. He's smart. Just keep trying to reach him. Confirm he's safe. Maybe he's even with someone reliable. She pressed her lips tight, unconvinced. Bardock trusted too easily. Or maybe he just didn't see the danger the way she did. Out on mission himself, he had no choice but to leave it in fate's hands. If Kakarot was back safe by the time he returned, all was well. But if not, Bardock knew he'd have to step in. He was worried too, though his voice gave nothing away. I'm going to keep trying now, Gine said quickly. If I don't, I might miss him. All right, stay cool. Yeah, she murmured, clearing her throat. Of course. The line cut. She immediately resumed her call, her voice cracking slightly under the strain of desperation. Searching for a Saiyan named Kakarot. If you're there, please respond. Gine didn't have to wait long this time. As soon as she made her call, a response came through. PIP. Hello, she said quickly, hope surging in her chest. She prayed for the sound of a squeaky, high-pitched voice, her son's voice. A mother could recognize it even from miles away. Please be Kakarot, please. Kakarot is here with me. The voice froze her blood. She knew it instantly, even before the image of his face slammed into her mind. Turles, her tail lashed violently. He isn't a certified combatant. He can't be going on missions. Bring him back home. Sorry, Turles replied smoothly. No can do. Let me talk to him, Gine demanded, her voice breaking with fury. Turles chuckled. While she was frantically calling, he had Kakarot seated beside him, teaching the boy how to decipher scouter readings. The lesson hadn't lasted long. He tightened his grip on the boy's tail until the child passed out, asleep and unaware. Turles smirked at the thought. Kakarot would remember none of this call. He's resting at the moment, Turles said casually. But don't worry. He's fine. We'll be back soon. I don't want soon, Gina roared. I want now. Turn that ship around, or I'll find you myself and drag you back. Heh. Turla's chuckle was low and mocking. I'd love to see you try. Planet Gawake, orbiting star 84. That's where we'll be. The line cut before she could answer. Her eyes widened, rage and fear colliding inside her. With a guttural growl, she spun, shoving Raditz onto the ground as she stormed out of the house. Wait up! He shouted, scrambling to his feet. She stopped just long enough for him to catch up, then shoved him in the chest, sending him stumbling back. Don't follow me. You stay here. Prince Vegeta could call for you any moment. I don't need help to get my son. Come on, I can… You don't even like Kakarot, she snapped. Why pretend now? Stay here. Do as I say. I'll be back soon. Raditz froze, his mouth clamped shut. His fists curled tight, his jaw clenched. He didn't care about Kakarot. Not really. But his mother? She was all he had. He only wanted to keep her safe. Stories of her carelessness in battle replayed in his head, stoking his worry. Still, he obeyed. He stood rooted as she vanished into the skies. Be back soon, he whispered bitterly. Planet Gawake, an ice world unlike most others. Avalanches thundered across its slopes, towering glaciers spiked across the landscape like crystal blades, and every surface lay buried beneath crushing blankets of snow. Few outsiders dared to land here, but this frozen world had its masters. The Lycan, towering humanoids covered in thick fur, ruled Gawak. Their settlements glowed with the warmth of massive bonfires, flames high enough to keep even their smallest children from freezing. Younglings huddled close, still growing their coats. The elders sat near, watchful, guardians of their race. Gein's attack pod punched through the misty atmosphere, and instantly her vision blurred. There were no clouds here, only dense, rolling fog that coated the pod's round viewport. She cursed under her breath. Damn. She hadn't thought this through. She hadn't considered the gravity, the climate, the strength of the inhabitants. Nothing. She was flying blind, driven only by instinct and a mother's fury. She knew it was reckless, but nothing else mattered. She had to get to Kakarot. B-A-M. The deafening crash shook the skies, a sound that carried for miles across the frozen valleys. In a cavern deep within the mountains, it echoed, disturbing the Lycan's leaders at their great fire. Their guards rose instantly, hackles bristling, muscles tight. This was no avalanche. That was a sound they knew well. This was different. At the center, seated in a chair carved for his massive frame, the shot caller of Gawaki's army narrowed his hairy eyes at the flames. His face was shadowed, but intent. His people did not tolerate disrespect. To disrupt their time of rest was a grave insult, one punishable by blood. Yet despite the alien sound, they remained still, calm, silent. Grrr! Grrr! One guard growled, low and dangerous. The fire crackled louder as though answering. Something, or someone, had come to Gawake. The Lycan leader raised his massive hand, fingers spread wide, and instantly the cave fell silent. His soldiers obeyed without hesitation. Slowly, he lowered those same fingers, clenched his fist, and slammed it into his opposite palm with a booming crack. The order was clear. The warriors pivoted as one toward the racks of weapons carved into the cave wall. Clubs, ropes, jagged stone blades, crude spears, even bows strung with sinew. All of it was lifted into hairy hands. They weren't improvising. They were prepared. On Gawak, outsiders were not welcomed. They were hunted. Meanwhile, Gein's body shivered as the freezing winds gnawed at her skin, her muscles locking tighter with every second. Her arms felt numb, her tail stiff. She fought to stay airborne, flying through the choking mist of Planet Gawake's skies. She had hoped flying higher would cut her a path, but it was useless. No matter the altitude, she saw nothing but fog. On the ground, at least, she'd had shadows and shapes to guide her. Up here, she was blind. He's got to be around here somewhere. Clicking her scouter, she swept her gaze left and right, searching desperately for the faint trace of Kakarot's power. The device beeped steadily for half a minute, scanning every direction, but returned nothing. No pods, no signals. Her heart sank.
Damn it!
Her breath rattled as she inhaled again, lungs screaming from the icy air, every breath stabbing like knives. I might die before I make it to him.
This world was cruel. The air was poisonously cold, the visibility near zero. Even the ship's rations she'd carried wouldn't last her long. Without shelter, without fire, she had no chance of surviving the night. Pip-pip, her scouter shrieked. Grrr! Grrr! Guttural growls followed.
Her head whipped around, tail lashing, as 4 signatures lit up across her lens. Each of them hovered at a battle power of 200. Not overwhelming, but not trivial either. Instinct roared awake inside her, spreading fire through frozen veins. Her muscles tensed, her breath steadied.
The Saiyan bloodlust stirred. She narrowed her eyes at the fog. Hi?
The only answer was violence. 2 of the figures shot through the mist, their speed masked until it was too late. One seized her wrist and wrenched her arm painfully behind her back, locking her in place. The other drove a fist deep into her stomach. Air ripped from her lungs in a choked cry. She doubled over, only to be yanked upright again and smacked across the face. The Lycan loomed before her, his clawed hand cupping her cheek as he studied her features with cold curiosity. The other 2 emerged from the fog, encircling her, weapons in hand. Jean's teeth ground together. Her tail whipped around, latching onto one attacker's torso, squeezing hard enough to make him stagger back with a grunt. The one holding her reached for the rope strapped to his back, ready to hogtie her like prey.
She exploded into resistance, punching, kicking, thrashing with raw desperation. But the fog blinded her, and 4 against 1 was merciless. Every time she broke one hold, another blow came from the side. Every move she made was countered. The odds weren't just unfair, they were crushing. The blow was brutal.
Jean's body was hurled through the misty skies like a rag doll, crashing into the jagged peak of a mountain with earth-shattering force. The impact cracked the icy stone, sending shards tumbling down the slope. Her back slammed hard, the shock reverberating through her chest until her vision blurred.
Pain consumed her. Every breath stabbed like needles of ice, piercing her heart and lungs. She tried to steady herself, to resist the pull of unconsciousness, but her body betrayed her. Drowsiness crept in like a poison. I've got to get up! Her voice rasped, weak, but her will still burned. Slowly, shakily, she rolled onto her back, hoping at least to gather herself. But there they were, the same 4 Lycan warriors, towering over her like beasts of judgment, their blank stares unfeeling. They studied her like she was prey, different, strange. One tilted his head, sniffing at her, then barked something in their guttural tongue. The others erupted in laughter, their voices low and cruel, their eyes dripping with malice. Then, without warning, one planted his massive foot against her ribs, rubbing it mockingly, before driving a vicious kick into her side. The force sent Jean tumbling, rolling helplessly down the snow-laden mountain. Her body spun, bouncing from ridge to ridge, until the momentum caught her in an avalanche of its own. Snow engulfed her, compressing tight, swirling into a massive ball that consumed her entirely. The Lycan laughter echoed faintly above, then vanished as the snowball grew, rolling faster, heavier, unstoppable. By the time it reached the base of the mountain, it was colossal, twice the size of an average Saiyan home. It slammed into a towering tree, shattering the trunk, exploding in a cloud of white powder. When the snow settled, Jean lay motionless in the frost, her body trembling. Her skin had turned pale, coated in a thin, icy layer, as if she had been frozen in cryogenic sleep for decades. Every limb screamed with numbness. Her breath rattled, shallow but alive. Her lips parted, quivering. Not just a word, but a name escaped her. Bar, Doc?
The sound was frail, but it carried the weight of her soul every time. Every time she had found herself on the brink,
Bardock had been there. Even if worlds apart, he always came. Always. But as her fading consciousness admitted the truth, her eyes dimmed. Not this time. This time, Bardock wasn't here. The power of a Saiyan warrior was already considered terrifying when one entered the thousands. To reach double digits in the thousands, that was the stuff of legends, an anomaly so rare it almost seemed impossible. Yet, for Prince Vegeta, this was no dream. His father, King Vegeta, had given him strict orders. He was not to leave the planet until he trained his body to surpass a battle power of 10,000. Though every ounce of his blood itched to jump to the nearest world and test this power on living prey, Vegeta restrained himself. The king's words were absolute, and so the young prince remained, sharpening his strength until the day his father deemed him ready. Inside Vegeta's chamber, silence weighed heavy. Only the faint hum of machines and the bubbling of healing fluid filled the room. Sitting nearby was Kuni, the one assigned to personally monitor the prince's progress. A slim tablet rested in her hands, its surface glowing with the scrawls of her notes. Her eyes flickered to the readings, and her lips parted slightly. Already 9,695 before coming here, and now her heart skipped a beat. He's gone past 10,000. 10,000. She swallowed. Only 9 years since his conception, and he's already surpassed the king, she whispered under her breath, staring at the young boy floating in the chamber. Could he really be the one? Beep! The draining sequence began. Vegeta's eyes snapped open, sharp and unyielding, as the healing fluid sank away. The hatch hissed open, steam curling out, and from it stepped the prince. His small frame was still drenched, liquid dripping down his skin, but he carried himself with no shame, no hesitation. He was stripped bare, but his pride clothed him more fiercely than any armor. Congratulations, Prince Vegeta. Kuni tossed him a towel, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to announce. Record shows your power level is now 10,500. You are, officially, the strongest Saiyan alive. Vegeta caught the towel without even looking, his sharp eyes narrowing at her. Of all people to tell me this, he muttered, stepping out. I didn't expect it to be you. His words dripped with irritation. In his mind, this moment should have been shared with his father, or at the very least, one of the king's top scientists. Not with her. Not with a clone who was treated far better than her kind deserved. Kuni. I hope that isn't a problem, she asked cautiously. It's not. Vegeta began pulling on his underclothes, his tone sharp, dismissive. You're just odd. Her brow twitched. Okay. She hadn't come here to be insulted. She came to record his progress. But of course, this was the prince, the same boy who made even adults hold their tongue. I don't trust clones, Vegeta continued, voice low but sharp enough to cut. Any day, any time, your programming could snap. Suddenly, you and your kind could decide to take over. That's why the jobs on planet Vegeta should be done by Saiyans, not outsiders. That's why we have lower class Saiyans in the first place. Kuni tightened her grip on her tablet. She knew better than to speak rashly. A single wrong word could cost her head, so she carefully measured her reply. Well, she said slowly, you don't need to worry about that. The day our people were conquered, the real people, all the men, all who could fight, were wiped out. The only ones left were those like me. We're not in any position to overthrow anyone. We're intelligent, yes, but only in science. Even if we used our knowledge against you, or against the Frieza force, it would make no difference. The odds would crush us. You know that? The prince was silent. He couldn't argue. She was right, and he knew it. Still, his pride wouldn't let him say it out loud. Humph, Vegeta finally scoffed, tugging his boots on. You're still odd. His eyes flickered to her hair, a mocking curl to his lips. The only clone with purple hair. Your natural color is blue, but you decided to dye it? A malfunction, maybe? His voice dripped with sarcasm. Kuni gave him a small, sarcastic smile of her own. I guess so, Vegeta. Touché. Far away on planet Vegeta, the king sat upon his throne. His fist rested against his cheek, his expression hard, unreadable. Before him knelt an advisor who read from his notes with rigid discipline. The prince's next destination, planet Saiyan, orbiting star 77. The king's eyes flickered, but his face did not move. For weeks now, his focus had been locked on his son, on Vegeta's growth, on his ascension. Each mission was carefully chosen, designed to push the boy's limits. Tedious though it was, the king never allowed even the smallest detail to falter. "What else?" the king asked, voice deep and cold. "Our scouts report the natives average a battle power of 500. Their strongest recorded warrior measures at 7,000. The planet itself, 2 suns, endless sand, barren climate. The creatures live beneath the ground and rely on ambush. They must be exterminated, but not disintegrated. The acid in their bodies can be harvested, researched into weaponry. Estimated arrival, 504 hours. Just 8 hours shy of a full moon. Estimated mission length, 2 weeks. Before the advisor could continue, a young voice cut in. "I'll have it done in 2 days." All heads turned. Prince Vegeta stood there, eyes blazing with certainty, his voice dripping with confidence. For the first time, King Vegeta allowed himself a smile. Then came a booming laugh, proud and fierce. That's the attitude of a true warrior. An extensive amount of research had gone into these assignments, often stretching out for weeks at a time. Every detail mattered. King Vegeta knew that while his son could handle an opponent with a battle power of 7,000, sheer numbers alone never told the full story. Outsiders, no matter their strength, always seemed to possess strange, tricky techniques that could turn the tide of a fight. This was why the king had chosen carefully. Before sending the boy against the most dangerous threats the galaxy could offer, he would use this mission as a test. And judging by Vegeta's fiery confidence, the king was almost certain his son would not only succeed, but come back untouched. "Are the coordinates already set?" the king asked, his deep voice echoing through the throne room. "Yes, sir," replied the advisor. King Vegeta's eyes slid to his son. He gave a single nod, the kind that carried both command and pride. "Good luck, my son." Vegeta bowed slightly, more out of formality than humility, then turned on his heel and strode toward the exit. His cape fluttered behind him, and the atmosphere in the throne room shifted. Every Saiyan present turned their eyes on him. Warriors, commanders, even hardened veterans. They all watched in silence. The weight of their stares wasn't just out of respect, it was awe. Here was a child, only 9 years old, whose power already surpassed the king himself. None of them had ever come close to such heights at his age. Some had never reached that power at all. The thought clawed at their minds. How strong will he be when he reaches the king's age? And beyond that, what of his children? The thought sent chills down their spines. For the first time in a long while, there was hope. Real, dangerous hope. That this boy could be the one to free them from the cold grip of Frieza. Even King Vegeta, who at first saw his son as little more than an heir to the throne, felt something deeper growing inside him. A realization. His son was no ordinary Saiyan. His son was special. Perhaps the timing of his birth was fate itself, and the king now sees this chance to shape that potential into something greater than himself. Meanwhile, Vegeta had simpler thoughts running through his mind. The trip will be long. I'll eat and rest until we get there. Save my energy for the fight. Distracted by his own musings, the boy hardly paid attention to his surroundings as he walked the grand halls. So when a familiar booming voice called out from ahead, he nearly missed it. "Hey, Vegeta!" The prince didn't even need to look up to know who it was. That voice, and more importantly, those massive legs. He could recognize them anywhere. His frown deepened. "Oh, it's you." Nappa towered over him like a mountain. Even if Vegeta stretched as far as he could on his toes, he wouldn't reach above the giant's waist. But this time,
something else caught his attention: the cape. A white cape lined with a deep red interior draped proudly over Nappa's shoulders. Vegeta's eyes narrowed, then, unexpectedly, curved into a smirk. That cape was no ordinary accessory. It was a mark of promotion. Nappa had officially been raised to mid-class rank, and that meant one thing: he wouldn't be Vegeta's burden anymore. Of all the news the prince had heard this week, this was by far the best. He crossed his arms, smirk widening. "I see you're finally where you're meant to be." "Ah, yeah," Nappa chuckled, scratching the back of his bald head with his massive hand. "Apparently, saving you and Raditz convinced the king I was worthy. I think he just promoted me out of gratitude for keeping you alive. Though, heh." Vegeta's smirk dropped instantly. His eyes sharpened into daggers. "You told my father what happened?" he snarled. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.